What's up, y'all? Want to talk to the dads. Strong revelation. I was living my life according to this value. At least it wasn't as bad as getting abused by my stepdad. Can you imagine using that as a reference point for the basis of most of your interactions with your child and most of your interactions with your child's mom and the kind of harm that that may cause? So, case in point, the other day I went swimming with my daughter, and we were coming in from shore because she wanted to go and play with these kids, and there was a wave coming. We like to play this game where I run real fast when the wave comes and beat the wave to the shore, right? Great, everything's going good. The waves come in, I'm beating that thing. Only problem is I forgot about the rocks, the small rocks. About, well, they're not small, but they're about this size right here, if you can see. This is one I picked up from where we swim. When it gets a little more shallow, like a little less than waist deep, there's this sort of row of rocks that the waves must have pushed up on shore, and I trip on those rocks with my daughter in my hands. And she was kept safe because I held her up in a way where I landed on the rocks and I hurt my hand and everything. Now, if you know anything about children, seeing your dad hurt can cause a little bit, if not a lot, of emotional trauma. And it wasn't something I picked up on at the time. And she went and played with her kids. I get home and mom is like, "Hey, what'd you guys do? Where'd you go?" And the baby's like messing with her, not answering her questions. And finally, the baby's like, I'm scared to tell you there was a big wave. And Christina, my partner, is asking me, "Hey, what's going on?" And at the time, I wasn't centered enough to be able to hold space and sort of get into it. And we ended up getting into a big fight. And she was telling me how a lot of times I take these physical risks with the baby that she would never take. And me being a guy, like, yo, that's ridiculous. Like, I can handle it. It's cool, you know? And there have been times I've climbed trees without safety precautions. This time at the ocean, without really measuring the safety precautions. And it was really hard. There was a huge fight. And I went out the door later to go handle some business, and I came back, and the conflict wasn't resolved. And so I had to take a lot of time to think to myself, and I realized that I think the thought, especially like when we're in conflict, at least it's not as bad as getting abused by my stepdad. You know, like falling on the rock, she didn't get hurt. You know, there's nothing problem here. Climbing the tree, she didn't get hurt. It's not as bad as getting abused by my stepdad. And most guys, or a lot of guys, may think that way, that it may not be as bad as a situation that you went through. However, what I learned from that is that in using that low reference point, you're not actually setting an intention for safety. You're not committed to safety. You're committed more to the, at least it's not as bad as this. And in that space, more harm is likely, whether emotional or physical. And so it gave me the opportunity to see that, hey, I'm thinking this detrimental pattern, and I keep getting into fights because of this pattern that I have and in this way of thinking. If I aspire higher, that's going to pull me up, and I'm going to continue to get better, and less harm is going to be created. And so I started thinking about the dads that I really look up to. And it was the first time I ever really sunk in this way. And I started thinking about the dads I look up to. There's this one guy named Chris Richards who's super gentle, super strong with his children, and super committed to communication, to honesty, to truth. And I was like, well, what would it take for me to be more like that? And even in simply asking that question, you create a different kind of pattern for how you're going to go about the rest of your life in this context. So I just wanted to talk to the dads and let them know that I understand. Growing up, a lot of us weren't given the space to feel our feelings. So it's harder for us to understand that, hey, when I'm thinking this thought about at least it's not as bad as my stepdad, I feel heavy or I feel a pulling downward. When I think, hey, how do I aspire to be like this dad? The success I'm seeing this dad operate in, I feel a feeling that's light and uplifting. And in think about it. When you're angry and you may not be aware of your anger, and that's like a lower feeling, aren't you more likely to cause some kind of harm? Maybe you might snap at somebody. Maybe you might hit something or something like that if something just triggers you the wrong way. And when you're in a higher state of like joy or aspiring to something that pulls you higher, you're more likely to create more of those feelings around you. And so I realized this and I thought I had to share it with y'all. And I had to open this dialogue about the reference points we use in our fatherhood. And so I hope you got a lot of value out of this. Please let me know what you think. If you have questions about feelings or you need someone to hold space for you, please hit me up privately or drop something in the comments and I'll reach out to you. Anyway, thank you so much for listening and I'll see y'all soon. Dad Swag. Peace.